I have created the most average manager in Football Manager 2024, and we are going to simulate to the end of his career to see how good an average manager can be. So this is our average manager. I've named him Average Man for short, and I've given all of his attributes a 10. So his coaching attributes are all 10, his mental attributes are all 10, even the scouting stuff is 10, even like analyzing data. And why not? I also made his medical attributes 10 as well. There were some other stuff that I had to make average, so I did my best with that. I tried to go with what I felt like was an average formation. Like most managers these days are using a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, maybe even a 4-4-2. So I tried to make those his preferred formations just because I felt like that was kind of an average thing to do within the context of the game. So looking at his details, having a 10 for all of his attributes gives him a 99 current ability as a manager. I've also given him a 10 for all of his hidden attributes. I've also added in the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, 4-4-2 as kind of average formations for our average manager. Looking at other hidden attributes, so these attributes here kind of dictate how a manager likes to play. So how attacking he is, how high his defensive line is, the directness of play, so on and so forth. So I've made all of that 10. So we will see what a 10 does for his attacking or defensive style of play. I'll be really curious to see what the game characterizes his style of play as. For some quick context to all of those attributes, if you've never seen them before, this is what Pep Guardiola's attributes look like. So as you can see, he likes to attack. He likes to have a higher defensive line, with the lower number being a higher defensive line, so on and so forth. So all of these attributes here kind of define Pep Guardiola's style of play for his club. So then going back to our average manager here, we'll see what having a 10 for all his attributes leads to his style of play being. And the final notes about him, I have given him a Continental Pro license. This is just to make sure that he's not limited by the license he has. We can see his true ability in the context of the game, given him being the average manager. He's also 32 years old from the Philippines, so we'll see maybe if he ends up coaching a national team. And finally, we are starting our average manager off at Gateshead. Gateshead are currently in the Vanarama National League. If we look at the Vanarama National League season preview, they are predicted to finish 5th. So the reason that I chose Gateshead is because at the beginning of the game, they don't have a manager. So we have stuck our average manager on a team that didn't have one. So we will see if our average manager can get Gateshead to 5th or even promotion from the Vanarama National League. So we are hoping for a long and illustrious career for our average manager. Let's start by going 5 years into the future. Let's see what our average manager has been up to. Welcome back. We are in 2028, 5 years into the future, and our average manager has moved to Salford. So he's in Salford are in Skybet League 1, so there is our average manager. So he has moved up the divisions, but let's see how he did in his first 5 seasons. So looking at our average manager, he was at Gateshead for 3 seasons before moving to Salford, and now he's been there for the past 2. Looking at his overview, he has spent a bit of money, but he hasn't sold for a lot of money. And looking at his win percentage, though, it's only 36%. That's not great, but he does have a positive goal differential. And it looks like he won a league with Gateshead. I wonder if they won the Vanarama National League. So he has a league and a promotion, but nothing with Salford so far. So let's look at his milestones. Sure enough, our average manager is off to a phenomenal start. Vanarama National League champions before being hired as the Salford head coach. And in fact, it was in season 1 that Gateshead were promoted. 87 points, getting promoted above Dagon Red, 3 points above. It looked like one win being the key to victory there. But a phenomenal start for our average manager here. That's very above average of him. So after that, Gateshead were promoted to Skybet League 2, where it looks like they ended up being kind of a mid-table, yeah, sure enough, a mid-table team for a couple years. And then, of course, he moved to Salford, where it looks like in the past couple of seasons, they finished 18th. He kept them up. And then last season, they finished 5th. They were actually in the promotion playoff spots. I'll tell you what, the average manager has started his career very well. So even despite his 37% win percentage overall, he's doing really well. 36% for Salford, so he's right on par with kind of where we think he would be. He was even the head coach of the year runner-up when he was at Gateshead. And looking at all of it, they were knocked out by Preston in the Sky Bet League One playoff semifinal. So they will be looking to do better than that soon. All right, well, 5 years in, our average manager is doing well. He's got a strong start to his career. Let's go 10 years into the future. He's still young. I think we're going to see a long and prosperous career at this point. So let's move forward to 2038 and see what's up with our average manager then. All right, welcome back to 2038. And big news, the average manager's at Norwich, making £53,000 per week. Genuinely, he's making dough now. Where is he at? He is in the English Premier Division. He's average. He's very average, and he's moved all the way up to the EPL. I mean, nothing has changed, but he's in the EPL. So he went from Salford to Birmingham. He played at Birmingham for 4 years, Sunderland for 2, and then he's been at Norwich for the past 3. So let's look at his overview. Again, 5 jobs, around the same win percentage. So he's coming in with a 36% win percentage or so. He does have another promotion to his CV, so he could have gotten promoted maybe with Salford. And looking at how he's done, he has spent big time. He's spending big amounts of money. £332 million bought. Highest fee spent 33 million on Paulo Gutierrez, but received 72 million for Emmanuel Kiesivuki, who now plays for Villa and genuinely looks really good. 150 current ability. I'll tell you what, they kind of fleeced Villa. That's a lot of money. But let us look at our average manager's milestones. So he was hired as Salford head coach, didn't get promoted with them. He agreed terms, so Birmingham came and poached them, but then he was fired from Birmingham due to poor league position. So he was fired at the end of the 2032 season. Let's look at what that might have been. So looking at the 2032 season, Birmingham were only in 10th. What were they the season before? They were also in 10th. So it doesn't look like they were 13th. So I don't really know why he got fired there. It seems like maybe they had promotion, playoff type ambitions, and that's why he got fired. But the average manager seemed like he was doing a fairly okay job at Birmingham. I'm surprised to see he got fired after that result. Well, after being fired at Birmingham, he was hired as the Sunderland head coach in 2033, and then he was fired. So in 2034, 28, 2035, he was fired from Sunderland. What happened there? So he was fired from Sunderland on 4/28. So if we scroll down to April 28, he was fired right at the end of the season. Oh, they had I can see why he was fired from Sunderland. Wow. Okay, so from the turn of the year, from February through to March, yeah, they won 3 matches. Okay, I can see why he was probably fired from Sunderland. I could see him losing confidence in the dressing room. Well, moving forward in his career, he was then hired by Norwich that summer, and then he got promoted with Norwich. So he took Norwich to the English Premier Division. That was the second promotion we saw. So Norwich now, so he got them into the English Premier Division, and he's actually kept them there for a season. So this is looking at Norwich's schedule, and he would have taken over, and he had a great start to the season. And looking through a bit of a difficult end, but it was enough to get them promoted into second place. The following season, English Premier Division, clearly they did enough. They had a they did enough to stay in, and they've done enough to stay in 2 seasons in a row. So if we look, so I think it was the last 2 seasons, so they would have been promoted here. They barely stayed up. They stayed up by 1 point, and they had a superior goal differential. But 1 point there, and then Norwich here, and a much better second season. The average manager might be figuring things out. And looking at his style of play, it looks like he likes to play a 4-2-3-1, which is kind of the formation we have set for him. So he's doing pretty well, genuinely. It looks like Football Manager has defined his style of play as not using or tends to use intense pressing. So he likes to press intensely. He likes wing play. He doesn't have any tendencies to not do anything. I mean, I guess when you're average at everything, you do a little bit of everything. Well, we are in 2038. He's 47 years old. I'm just going to move forward to the end of his career at this point, and let's reflect on what the average manager was able to do. Because genuinely, I think he's doing pretty well right now. I will see you all at the end of his career. Welcome back. We are 14 more years into the future. We have reached June 2052. And I'm sad to say that at the age of 61 years old, the average manager will soon retire. So as you can see, this is the last time we're ever going to see our average manager, 61-year-old Filipino. Again, super average and everything. It looks like he's switched over to just being that 4-3-3. So it looks like he's gone towards that for the rest of his career. He also has a 2.5 star out of 5 reputation. He ended up with an average, middling reputation as well, which is awesome. And looking at his career, after Norwich, Wolves, Bolton, Coventry, Swansea, and Luton. So he ended up just kind of jumping around to different places in the English football pyramid. He had 10 head coaching jobs. He spent a lot of money. He sold for a lot of money, but nothing more than we saw previously. And he ended up 3 promotions he ended up with. Oh, and he was relegated too. Average win percentage was right about where we saw earlier, 35%. He had a goal difference of 0. That's so average. He literally had a mid-team. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. A goal difference of 0. That's such a cool and unexpected thing to see in the game. He literally had a goal difference of 0. 35% win percentage. I mean, if he had 33, 33, 33, it would have been about the same. But he won about 1 in every 3 matches. He lost about 1 in every 3 matches. And he drew a little bit less than 1 in every 3 matches. He had a really average career. The goal difference being 0 is wild to me. I mean, it wasn't 1 above or 1 below. It was literally 0. That's so cool. So let's go back and see what happened in his career. So 2036, he was promoted. And then he was fired in 2038. That's actually right after we saw him. So he lost confidence in the locker room was lost. After that, he was hired by Wolves. Then he was fired by Wolves. All right, we'll have to see where. Then he was hired by Bolton. Then he was fired by Bolton. Then he was hired by Coventry. Then he was fired by Coventry. Hired by Swansea. Fired by Swansea. Hired by Luton. But he was relegated from the Championship, promoted from League One, and then fired from Luton as relegation loomed large. So the end of his career was really defined by just getting hired, getting sacked 2 seasons later, getting hired, getting sacked, getting hired, getting sacked. I mean, very average career, very average. Wow, sure enough, this past season with Luton, if you can see down here, Luton finished in last place in the Sky Bet Championship. So relegation was definitely looming large. You guys probably can't see it because my face is down here, but they had 34 points over the course of the season. They were 10 points away from relegation. That really isn't that good. And wow, that is a lot of losses. Wow, that is a lot of losses. I can see why they were relegated, and they had significant issues turning draws into victories looking throughout the season. Yeah, I can see why the average manager didn't get out of it. Looking at some of the awards he won, he was the head coach of the month a number of times, but he just had the runner-up, head coach of the year runner-up, so he didn't win anything there. I'm curious to see how he did in some competitions as well. He did get to the English FA Cup quarter-final with Luton. That is really impressive for a championship team. So they did good, and he had a run in the FA Cup. Not a great job in the Carabao Cup, but it looks like that FA Cup quarterfinal run, just scrolling through here, was probably his best ever performance. And I think to conclude this video, we will look at one final look at his biography, which is pretty average. It's kind of what you would expect. His kind of best performance was probably with Gateshead because they lifted the Vanarama National League. That was the only trophy he won throughout his career. But then after that, it's like he just took charge of a club, then left the club. He took charge of a club, then he left the club. He took charge of the club, then he left the club, and then he took charge of the club, and he left the club. So again, I will leave this up here for you to look at. But that was our average manager's career. And what I think was actually a pretty solid career, albeit fairly average, but he had a long career. He managed from 2023 to 2052, so a fairly long career for a manager. And overall, he was pretty average for all his sides. Best spell with Gateshead when he won the Vanarama National League. But otherwise, yeah, he ended up being a pretty average manager. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video looking at the average manager's career. I hope you all are having a wonderful week, and I will see you all very soon. Bye.